Good morning. Welcome to Time in His Word. I got to thinking about three words yesterday, and I called my preacher. Well, we ended up texting back and forth because he wasn't able to talk on the phone at the time. But the three words were focus, denial, and temptation. And my question to him was, were these three words one and the same, or do they mirror each other? And the example I gave was, after Jesus had been crucified and Peter was standing by the fire barrel, keeping his hands warm. And I'm in Mark, the 18th chapter, and it starts in verse 66 and goes through the end of the chapter, if you want to look later on to see for yourself. But I asked him, I said, so when Peter's standing there warming his hands and the servant girl accuses him of being one of his followers and he denies Christ, I said, at that moment, did he deny Christ and lose his focus, or had he lost his focus of Christ and thus denied Christ? And the preacher said one is the same in the other. So in other words, denying something can lose our focus of it, or losing our focus, we would deny what we're trying to do. And it got me more and more thinking, because Jesus had told him at the supper that before the rooster crowed 2 times, he would deny him 3 times for the night. And so he tells that servant girl he doesn't know what she's talking about. So we can say he's at that point he's denied him, which he was predicted to do. But then they ask him again. So at this point, on the second time, that's when my questions really were kicking in. So if he traveled about with Jesus and he learned everything he was going to learn in those 3 years, and he knew who this man of God was, and he was one of his favorites, how did he deny him a second time? You see what I'm getting at? So then, to me, the way I'm thinking is that since he denied him the first time, it made it easier to deny him the second time, and thus he's lost his focus of who Jesus is. And we can all fall into that category in one way or the other. In that either we've lost our focus of Christ and we've gotten off track and gotten out of his glory, or we have denied him, and by doing so, then we're losing focus of what Jesus has for us. Do you see what I'm getting at? Now, the other word that I threw in there was temptation. So I was thinking about that. So I asked the preacher, I said, so if we've denied our Savior and we've lost focus of what he has for us, I said, then temptation becomes easier for us to resist because we've denied Christ, we've lost our focus, and now our defenses are down. And he said yes. And so it just got me to thinking, and just one of them, it's one of those points that are great for a discussion group, because there's really like no, it's one of them. To me, it's one of those. It's a question that makes a good discussion. There's no right or wrong answer, but that it's in the way the discussion goes is how you believe in the order of it. In other words, some people will believe or think that if you lose your focus on Christ, then it's easier to deny him, and then temptation becomes easier or harder to resist. Not easier, but harder to resist. And others will say the other way around. Well, once you've denied Christ, now you've lost your focus of Christ, and thus temptation's harder to resist. Just so you see what I'm getting at, it makes a great discussion topic. But for yourself today, think about that. Think about the words that I said. So if we lose our focus, then does it make it easier to deny Christ? Or do we need to deny him first, and thus we lose focus, But either way you look at it, temptation's the next step, and it's harder to resist because we've fallen out of the grace of God. So you see what I'm getting at? It's just one of those. It's kind of a thought that I think about all day long and keeps my mind wandering and working. And but I thought I'd share that with you this morning, and then just think about that today. Just think about that. In which order you think is more appropriate? In other words, do you think if you deny Christ, then you lose focus easier? Or if you lose focus, then it's easier to deny Christ? Which one is it?